Hi, and welcome to today's athlete feature. Today we have a very special guest. So, without further ado, who are you and what is your sport?
Hi, my name's Alyce Wood. I was going to say I play kayaking. No, I don't. I paddle. I'm a sprint kayaker. I paddle over 500 meters. Sprint kayaking, you go in a straight line. We're not rowing. We don't go backwards. And I'm on flat water, so unfortunately no rapids and slalom, but just 500 meters as fast as you can.
I still think that's pretty exciting. How long have you been paddling for?
I started paddling when I was 15. I grew up in surf lifesaving, and I guess when you turn about 15, you jump on a surf ski. And for me, jumping in a kayak was kind of a really good way to work on my ski paddling technique. And the rest is history, really. I'm 30 now, and I haven't stopped kayaking since then.
For sure. You must have gone so fast if you were used to going in the waves in the ocean once you hit the flat water. So it would have been a breeze in the park for you.
Oh yeah, and the boats are a lot lighter. There's no waves, a bit less wind, obviously, so it's just nice.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to know, whilst you have been paddling, have you had something to work towards outside of sport? Um,
Yeah, yeah. So our sport's really big on making sure that we have a really good balance. So obviously, as a elite athlete, that takes up a lot of our time, but we have to make sure we have something outside to focus on. And I'm a huge believer in if you have something outside to, I guess, work towards and put your mind to, your paddling will actually be a lot better because you can come home or go to uni or go to work and just switch off from high performance life. So for me, I when I finished school, obviously I went to uni. I've done two uni degrees. I've done a double degree in PR and communications, and I've also done an MBA, so a Master of Business Administration. And I now run my own business. I work with small businesses. I'm a small business, but I work with small businesses as well with their marketing. And I do some speaking on the side as well. So I've always got something going on. And more recently, I've become a mum, so I've kind of added in like another element, I guess, to my plate. But like I said, I'm a strong believer in if I'm doing well in my business or with my mum life, then my paddling's also, um, going well as well, and so it all feeds into each other.
100%. It's good to hear you've kept yourself busy and you had that support and encouragement to find other things off the water as well. So that's so good to hear. I'd love to know a little bit more about your earlier days, when you were deciding what to study, perhaps. How did you know what you wanted to do, and how did you go about finding that study or passion or career path outside of sport?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Towards the end of my schooling life, I thought, I love sport, obviously, and I've always loved sport, and I was pretty good at science. And so I just thought, hey, let's do exercise science. And I think a lot of athletes do that because it's just what we know and it's what we live and breathe every day. And so I went to uni, I did the first semester. I don't even think I finished the first semester and I dropped out because exercise science was not for me. And that was a big learning curve for me because it made me look at myself and look at what I love doing and kind of step back a little bit and actually think more about it. And so the next year I enrolled in journalism and PR. I always thought then I wanted to be a journalist. I love writing. It's something that when I write, it takes me away from reality, I guess, but it also, I love telling other people's stories. And so I thought journalism is where it's at for me. And then my parents encouraged me to do public relations as well, just as a bit of a fallback. And fast forward 10 years, and now I'm probably more on the PR side of things than the journalism side of things. So I think a big learning for me has been that, if you do pick something straight out of school or 2 years out of school, 3 years out of school, that might not be exactly where you're going to end up. But what you learn through university helps you in any industry you land in. I've done a Master of Business Administration now, and so I'm pretty around the business side of things and the public policy side of things. And if you told me that I would have done that 10 years ago, I would have laughed. And so I think all of my experiences kind of have fed into where I am now. And I'm sure what I'm doing now will continue to evolve, particularly as I, lead into retirement next year, and take on a more full-time role with whatever I guess end up doing.
Absolutely. That's so good to hear that not everyone has it figured out. I think that's a common narrative, and just to be okay with that. I think, yeah, like you said, you'll naturally fall into where you're supposed to be with all of the experiences along the way. So you have to keep trying and trying new things along the way. Um,
Mm.
I'd love to know a little bit more about your business. We can do a small little plug. How did you take the leap to know that that's what you want to do? And how is all of that going?
Yeah, so through my undergrad, the public relations side of things, I really found that I loved helping small businesses succeed. And the reason, I guess, why I found that is my family, or my dad has always worked with small businesses himself. He was an accountant and now he's a business coach. And so I was helping out a little bit with some clients with him. And I guess it's just evolved from there. I think small businesses are really cool because I guess it's the core of our country almost. And um, the services I can provide them is something that they might not be able to cover off in-house. And obviously, being able to provide them a service that's affordable, but also something that can kind of make their time management a little bit easier. And so I take something off their plate. It's pretty rewarding. And so, yeah, it's kind of just built from there. I learned, or I taught myself how to build websites, which was an interesting process at the start. And I certainly don't think I'm an expert still. I think it's constantly evolving, but I taught myself that, all the social media things that so many people obviously are so good at now. Google ads, just your traditional styles of marketing as well. We learned through university. And so, yeah, I like to help businesses. I guess I provide them like a full suite of marketing slash PR. And I'm not professing to be an absolute expert in one particular area, but I really like to be able to give them the confidence that I can help them across the board.
Absolutely. So you're a self-taught generalist. I love it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. Um, Now, another question that's off script, but that's okay. I would love to know how you find a way to manage a full-time successful athletic career, your small business, and motherhood. How the hell do you do it?
That's a really good question that I'm still trying to figure out. No, I think time management was always drilled into me when I was young by my parents. They weren't like, hardcore people that made me sit down and do my homework from 6 to 7 p.m., but they were always, on time everywhere and making sure my brother, my sister, and I had things done early. And I think that's just kind of carried through the rest of my life, basically. I've got some pretty specific and clear goals for myself of what I want to do. But within that, I try to make sure that one part of my life isn't overruling another. And so I guess to be able to get things done in a small amount of time, you have to make sure you stick to that time. And so for me, training times are obvious times. Our coach gives us those. There's a little bit more around the edges, obviously, with physio visits and dietitian visits and whoever else you need to see. But once I'm done at training, I leave and I switch off from training. And so I try not to overthink what's happening on the water. Then I come home or I go to a client or wherever I am, and that's my work time. And if I've set aside 9 to 12, that's it. That's me done. And then obviously mum life has been a bit of a juggle to add into there, but just having a really good support network of family and friends who are able to jump in and help out when I need has been really good. But one thing that I'm really strict on myself on is after dinner, there's no work. It's just family time and, time to spend with my husband and now my daughter as well. And weekends, you will rarely see me work. Obviously, I train on a Saturday, but you'll rarely see me behind a computer because that's also family time. So it's busy during the week, but we make it work.
Absolutely. Sounds like you have nailed the topic of mindfulness, you and using time management to help that. But Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's just amazing. You sound like a superwoman, so you should be very proud.
Thanks. I think you've got to, probably my biggest bit of advice is to make sure you're comfortable asking for help. Because I think years ago I used to try to do everything and I'd say yes to everything as well. And by saying yes to everything, that's great. You can help out wherever you need it, but your plate becomes too full. So you have to be able to say no to things and give a reason why, obviously, but also lean on people when you need and be okay with that. And that's helped me a lot in the last years, especially.
For sure, you can't burn the candle at both ends.
No.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, final question. What advice would you give your younger self or someone else who finds themselves in similar shoes to you? You already gave us a little bit of advice, but if there's anything else.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean that's a tough one because obviously everyone's circumstance is different. But I guess my biggest bit of advice is to not overthink situations. When I was younger, I used to, I guess, get in my own head about things and complicate matters. But probably my biggest bit of advice is to simplify the complicated because, you know, like with a training set, say, you might be handed a training set and it looks really hard and, you have so many questions about it, but all you've got to do is really just hop on the water and do it. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, wow, okay, I can do that. That is achievable. Similarly in the workplace, you might look at a project or a university assignment and look at it and go, whoa, where do I even start with this? But if you just kind of pick the pieces apart and, order them, and then you'll be able to figure it out. So that's kind of a bit of a life motto for me, is to simplify the complicated, and I stand by that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Elise.
That's all right. No worries. Thanks for having me.